You look beautiful. Him every time I see him.
You look absolutely beautiful, as always.
Thank you. Well, you're the only man that I'm like, oh man, T outdo me.
Oh, never outdo you.
Oh,
how can I outdo beauty like that?
Well, this man has charm and charisma for miles and miles, and we all know that that's what a lady really wants.
I get it. You're
so,
kind.
Ted.
Yes.
I have found out the first time that Mr. Ted Bogart is being interviewed. And I feel like
that's
Gail,
correct.
but you're not that other person.
I'm not that person?
You're not that
that's
person.
Good.
I feel like Oprah. Let's just put it that way.
I'll be Oprah. You can be Oprah.
Exactly.
I'll be Gail. That's
you
fine.
can be Gail to my
like
Oprah.
Gail.
That's right. So you guys, a lot of you know who Ted Bogart is.
You got it. You did it.
I did. Because I remind the yogurt. So he told me a story. That's how I remember names. We're going to talk to him today because I believe that Ted is the master of connection. And he does it with such heart and such joy. He has his own show, the Ted Bogart Show, and that's how I met him. He reached out and he's like, Jen, I want you to come on the show. And I was so honored. I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do? And, you know, he knows so many of my friends and so many of my coworkers in Orlando. And I just love how he does it time and time again. So I want him to share some of his secrets. But I didn't know a lot about you, Ted.
A lot of people don't. It's funny. I've not been interviewed by anybody before.
Yes, yes. And I actually asked some of my agents and coworkers at the office some of the questions.
No, did you really? Oh my God, if you ask Bobby D, I'm in trouble.
That they would want to know. Some of them were a little inappropriate. Maybe we'll see. And some of them, you know, were
Bring it on. I'll answer anything.
But I kind of want to know, you know, first thing that I do when I'm thinking about interviewing someone, I go to their LinkedIn. And I found yours was kind of short, but I did find out that you studied medicine or hospital. What was it here? The hospital.
My master's degree.
Healthcare. See, guys, I do have notes on this. Healthcare.
You don't have to worry about notes.
Administration, and of course, finance.
I did. So I got my bachelor's degree in finance from UCF. Go Knights. And my master's degree is in healthcare administration, which is basically consulting for healthcare. I worked in the healthcare field, working, believe it or not, in the alcohol, drug abuse, and mental health field, consulting for about 5 years.
Well, I want to touch back on that, but I always like to ask this very question, because what did you want to be when Ted was 8 years old or 9 years old? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Other than fabulous.
Well, you're fabulous. You're fabulous. You're fabulous. Cheers to your fabulosity.
Cheers to you. Thank you again, by the way, before we go further. Thank you for having me on the show. Super excited. It's nice to have the tables turn, kind of. It's nice to not have to think about the next question because you've got it. Or I'll just talk a lot.
Exactly.
You know what? It's funny. I don't know. I think I wanted to be a doctor. That's my thought process.
Okay.
And so that was as close as I could get because I hate math. In the medical field was health services administration.
And what was it when you were growing up that in your household, how did your mom and your dad influence you? Was there something that they influenced you that said, hey, I want to help people and be a doctor? How was it growing up for you?
You know, you asked the question, so I'm going to answer it.
Yes.
Everything that my parents did, I did the exact opposite.
Woo, rebellious!
So anything that they did, they weren't really encouraging people. We'll have to do a whole show about that. So I learned what not to do from them.
Okay.
I learned who not to be from them.
And sometimes, you know, who you don't want to be leads you.
Very motivating, right?
Who you do want to be.
Because we look at people and we say, you know what? I was treated badly, I don't like how that person was, I'm not going to be that way, and it's just as powerful as what you do want to be.
And what was it at that time when you were growing up? For me, it was books that helped you to see a different way of being who you were going to become. Like, what were some little lights?
It's a great question. So books and music. Books and music. I read a lot. But music, I love music. Ask my kids. I mean, I drill them. We used to play trivia in the pool, and they got prizes if they answered my stupid 80s, 70s, 80s questions.
Yes!
But I love music. That's why my Manic Monday show, it's all about trivia and music. I think music, most people have some sort of wonderful memory that comes to them, no matter who you are, with some certain song or a type of song. And so I think music is very powerful, and it was a great release for me.
Wow, wow. And so I have to ask, because my kids are actually big fans of the 80s right now. And my daughter, she's like, Mom, do you know this song from the Aerosmith album? And or from a Bon Jovi? And I'm like, I don't know that. Oh, it was the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You don't know this? And I'm like, yeah, but they were one of my favorite bands. And she's like, no, they couldn't be. Because you don't know
they don't want to know that.
I'm like, I liked him when I was your age. I have some bragging rights.
That's right.
Well, what did you want your kids to know about, like the music? What did you choose?
I just thought, so my kids grew up all born in the 90s, so early 2000s to 2000s was kind of influential. That's when you started having like 90 different artists on every song. So what I wanted them to know is that not every song is rap. Not that I'm against rap, but there's so much. God bless you, George. There's so much.
Playing alone.
There's so much that you can learn, I think, from the older music. It's not all elevator music, guys. There's a lot of words, there's a lot of good meaning, and so I wanted my kids to just have a broad idea instead of just what was popular then.
And what were the songs, like, bam, what was the song that you go to when you were that age that just brought you out of your funk when you were surrounded in this, like, kind of negative environment?
You know what's funny? I loved anything Barbra Streisand, John Denver, I'm dating myself, Barry Manilow. I like a troubadour. I like somebody who can actually sing. I like somebody who's got a voice, has the vocals, can carry a tune. And I grew up, I actually sing.
I did not know that, because I sing. That's my professional hobby.
So I sing it, I sang at my daughter's wedding.
Okay.
The Lord's Prayer. I can sing. And I love singing. I don't do it a lot, well, to myself, of course, like we all do in the shower or the car, but I do love singing.
Did you ever sing as like a teenager in like a teen band or
No, but I
like
sang at church.
I did too.
Yeah,
Look at us.
Look
at us singers who sing at church. So what was your first, I always remember my first time singing at church. My dad played the accordion. And
that's so cool, the accordion.
The accordion, and so
that's
I always
a lost
remember
art.
It is, and I just him breathing into that, and I would get up on stage with him at 8, 9 years old, and we would do spiritual music, and yeah, that's how I started.
I know, it's beautiful, and you have a beautiful voice.
Thank you.
You really do. Like, you have a real beautiful voice.
When did you hear me sing? I don't remember.
I think I've seen your YouTube or something.
Okay.
No. I do a little research occasionally. It's not canned, but real.
So what did you do at church? What was your first?
My very first solo was Silent Night.
Oh, yes.
So, that kind of music. I love Amazing Grace. I sang that live before, too. That kind of stuff, very good. I had somebody who, in my early years, got me out of the insanity I was dealing with and brought me to church. They used to come pick me up and then bring me.
Oh, I've done that. I've done that for some of my son's friends.
Powerful, because I'll never forget him. And I think that was so impactful. That's the mentors I talk about on the show a lot. Like, there's people that come into your life that really touch it.
Well, that was a question that I had. Now you're talking about that. As young Ted is growing up, and you're a teenager, and then you're getting into your early 20s. Who were some of the people that came into your life that you felt really changed your path? And what path might have you gone down if they hadn't come into your life?
That's a fantastic. Look at you asking fantastic questions. So early on, I had a lot of teachers, right? I think we all have teachers. I had teachers that understood what was going on in the household, and they were very cognitive of it. But back in the day, nobody really got involved.
You didn't talk about it.
But,
no, you didn't.
But what they did is do what they could with the time they had. So I had a lot of teachers. As I got older, I had a lot of teachers. In college, I had Pete Fisher and Jimmy Farrell and Vic Colazzo. Vic's been on the show. Just really strong people who allowed me to be me, but also helped me get out of whatever that was. And I think it's so important. You have to be there for people. That's why I think mentorship is critical no matter what age.
It is, and I learned that later in life. I used to think more education, which is why I changed my major 7 times.
Didn't we all?
Which is a transfer of energy that
Correct.
they give to you that you cannot find in a book.
I agree.
And so what did they save you from? When they kind of stepped into your life, was there kind of like a darkness you were battling with, or an identity?
No, so I grew up, I was an abused child. So as an abused child, you kind of figure out your survival techniques.
Yeah.
And so there were just people around me. I'm a man of faith, so I believe God put people in my path all along the way. And so each one had a different role. I feel like, it's time and season, although I keep in touch with everyone that's still alive. Facebook is amazing. Even my 3rd grade teacher, Miss Heater, I still call her that.
I love my third grade teacher. And she's a friend of mine on Facebook. I haven't talked to her, Miss Hofer, who came into my life. And she was actually the one teacher who paddled me. I'll tell you that, but I mean, it was necessary at that time. At my time, I was like 2 paddles, and I screamed so much that, they didn't even paddle me by the 3rd time, and so I had this thing that I just wanted to draw in color because we're creative people.
Definitely creative.
So the homework would go onto my desk and into the little pouch. Until one day, there was no room left.
No room in the pouch because you hadn't done any of the homework.
I had it up, but I was coloring, and she came around and she looked and she pulled out, she's like, what is this? But I don't know, I just see her as like, still after that, I knew she did it out of love, and that was what she
cared about you, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a time, like I understand that. It was also a different time, right? So
yes.
you have to have somebody who's strong, I think, and also somebody who's compassionate. Yeah. And that's why when I see people, you do the same thing. I know you have that same spirit. You see somebody who's hurting, I can feel it as an empath, yes. Right? So as somebody who I can sense it when somebody's not in a good place. That's why social media, I'm not stalking you, but I can tell when something's going on. Like I can see it in somebody, whether they're posting or not. I did a post this morning about my struggles. So it's been a crazy couple of weeks, right? So we talk about on my show about vulnerability and authenticity.
Yes, yeah.
And so I shared that, and I had somebody come up to me at the club crying.
Really authentic. Now that's authentic, uncomfortable authentic.
But they said to me, that moved me so much, I needed to hear it. So I think that you impact people. You have to take risks, yes. And you have to be willing to put yourself on the line. And the amount of people, the number of people that you're impacting, whether you know it or not, it's exponential. It's amazing.
It is, and there are people who come back to you, and then they're like, "Man, Jen, you said that, and you pour into me, and then I pour into you." And I think that's how it works. So, is there anyone that you're mentoring now? Do you take
I feel like they're all my children.
Oh, and how many children do you actually have?
I actually have 3 children.
You actually have 3 children, and
how
then
many do you have?
I have 2. I have 2. Yes.
Yeah, 3 children, all amazing. 2 graduated, 1 married, one's a nurse, oncology nurse. One is a social media manager for Omni Corporate, and then my son is finishing up at Gainesville.
Well, there you go. There you go. One question I wanted to ask, and this is coming into the universe, is something that I've been very aware of. I think I did a workshop called the Miracle Morning,
which I loved. I wish I could have been there.
We're going to do it again. For those of you who want to do the Miracle Morning, it's something that really has helped me in my life to really grab onto the day and shift my mindset. And I opened up a little bit about my background and some of the difficulties I had growing up. And I wanted to, we started talking about self-love, and I'm coming out of being always in a relationship since I was like 17 and relying on others. And I think sometimes when you're an entertainer and you come from an abusive background and you have those things, you do something that came to me performing for love.
Correct.
And something that drives your significance. Have you gotten to that place, or what brought you to that place where when the lights are off and the glitter shoes are off, and you're on your own?
I don't wear them to bed?
He wears his glitter shoes. You have to see, if you were on our IG, you would see his glitter shoes. We're going to have to take like a close-up of those glitter shoes. But when they're off and you're all alone, what is it, how do you show yourself self-love, or do you feel self-love? And if so, what brought you to that point?
That's a great question. So I definitely am at that point. But what I want to talk about really fast, what I talked about today, is that just because I'm there and I'm evolved to that point, doesn't mean that I don't have moments where I don't feel that way. So I hate for people to beat themselves up because they try to go meditate and they can't focus. They try to go exercise and it's not doing it. They go to church and they're not feeling it.
Yes.
So that's okay, and I want people to stop beating themselves up about that. So I do, I have meditation and prayer. That's what I do in the morning. In the morning. Everything's about gratitude.
Yes,
so I wake up, and whether I am in a good mood or not in a good mood, I focus on the gratitude. And what do you do? Because I will wake up, and I did this in my Miracle Morning class. We did a gratitude technique, because we are big believers at our office that gratitude and self-hate and fear cannot exist in the same space. Absolutely. You can't have gratitude and be fearful and upset and things like that.
it might just be a real quick second, but in the same space. So what is your gratitude in the, are you laying in bed? Are you breathing?
So yeah, so I do it all. I lay in bed. I don't do a gratitude journal, but I'm a big believer in that.
Yes.
I think that's a great way for people to express themselves. I meditate a little bit, I pray, I wake up immediately, and I'm always thankful that I actually woke up. I know that sounds simple, but sometimes when you're not feeling anything good, just the basics. I'm glad I'm alive.
Yes.
I'm glad I have a roof over my head. And it sounds so simple, but what it does, just what Jen said, it takes away, you can't have that fear and hatefulness and self-hatred in a world where you're thanking. So if you wake up and you're setting the tone for your whole day.
Your whole day.
I did a post a while back about how I'm praying, meditating. I'm me as a man of faith, talking to God all the time.
Yes.
So I feel like I'm always in that conversation. Doesn't mean that I don't go, okay, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, sometimes God gets some sentences from me that maybe shouldn't arrive to heaven.
No, but that's the thing. You want a personal relationship, whether it's the universe, God, nature, whatever it is that you have. I think it's so important to have that ultimate person that you're expressing and venting to, and that you can talk things through. And I think a lot of people get caught up and it has to be a perfect prayer, it has to be perfect meditation. And there is no perfect anything, which what my post was about. Just a conversation, just like Jen and I have a conversation about anything. That's what you want to do with the world, the universe, God, whatever your thoughts.
It's a lot like exercising. I always tell people, you know, I'm never going to arrive at the perfect body in my mind. It doesn't exist. However, I do the practice of exercise. I go to the gym. I go and I do this machine or that machine, and it's very similar thinking about your mind and your body. It's I'm going to do this exercise of prayer, this exercise of meditation. And when you are consistent with it and you look at it when you don't always feel like it, because we don't always feel like going to the gym, you arrive at a place, and you have arrived at this place. But I want you to just speak a little quickly to our millennials. What was it like when you were in college and you were going to school, and what got you through? Like, what was that for you? Because I know for me, I was at UCF when it was still a community college. And it was a commuter school. It was nothing like the UCF now.
How is that even? You are so much younger.
Oh, class of '93.
Oh, jeez. All right.
That was high school. That was high school. Yeah, and I started in '93.
I was going to say.
No.
You have great genes. No. I think the great thing about going to college in the '80s, there was no social media. There's no pictures. There's no video of anything, and I think that puts a lot of pressure on our millennials, on our kids. Really,
I can't even imagine. Like, I cannot imagine, you know, being as I was, and I look back at myself and I'm like, girl, you looked good and all, but I just remember feeling so insecure and like the world was coming at me because I didn't have good coping skills or good social skills at that time. And everything was, you know, just on me. But you know, imagine layering that in with the expectations of social media.
Well, it's bad enough having or feeling like you have to compare yourself to people you're with all the time. Then you have to compare yourself to your 1,000 friends, quote unquote, that are on social media. And you see all these people posting this positive stuff, which I say all the time on the show.
Oh my gosh.
Listen, guys, it's not that positive. If you want to be positive, I get it, but their lives are not as good, and you have to stop comparing yourself to the pictures that people post.
Yeah. You know, I always wanted to do this art exhibition, right, where it was the Instagram picture with the filter, but then you see the bigger picture, and you see like the two people fighting in the background, the dirty laundry, the unpaid bills sitting over here. But then you go back in, and you're like, okay, but look at how great this little piece of my life is.
It's this little focal point. It's kind of like when people use filters on anything, right? So I want you to look good. I want us all to look good. And sometimes the lighting, like we've got pros behind us that know how to do lighting. And I get you want to have a nicely lit, but if you look like you just had a tummy tuck and a facelift and you don't even look like yourself, you've basically erased everything. I want to encourage you to stop that because that's not real, and then you're just setting yourself up for feeling disappointed.
And it goes back to this self-love. So getting back to your college years, how did you cope? What was your mindset?
I was super involved on campus. I'm a Sigma Chi from UCF. I was involved in President's Leadership Council, student government, peer advisement, pretty much anything I could get involved in. I was involved, and it was a different time back then. We only had 6 sororities and 8 fraternities back in the day. So it was a smaller group. But I got super involved. But that's where I met my wife. That's where I've met some of my long-term friends.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, we met in college.
You met in college.
Yeah, she's a Tri-Delt, I'm a Sigma Chi.
What was the moment? What's the moment?
Well, so here's a crazy story she'll tell. We met once and I don't remember. I was president of Sigma Chi, and she was a pledge of Tri-Delt, and apparently somebody introduced us and I forgot. So she's never forgotten that in 30 years. So sorry, babe.
You were the cool kid. Were you the cool kid? You were already the cool kid, and were you dressing like this then?
I was an interesting dresser back then too. I went to the Gap. The Gap used to have actual clothes with patterns on it. It's like the boring stuff they have now.
It's so boring now.
But yeah, I think that I got involved. I immersed myself in it. I found a family for the first time, like a real family. And
what did you feel like? What is a real family like? What makes the difference of
love without any kind of physical ramifications.
Okay.
Love that is as unconditional as a human being can be.
Yeah.
Support. You want support. You want mentorship. You want common ground. You want to be able to be a jerk if you want to be a jerk, and that person not hate you forever. I mean, there's all this wonderful stuff. I grew up in an Italian family. Outside of my immediate cluster, had a very large extended Italian family. I loved that. Because they yelled and screamed at each other and nobody ever hurt each other, but it was all about love and pasta and wine, right?
I can totally understand that. And bread,
and bread, right?
Gotta have the bread. Salvador Dali, that's why he did paintings and paintings of bread. There was something amazing about bread.
I love Dali. This is funny not asking the questions. You know how hard it's been not to ask you questions?
Oh, well, that's another show. Actually, we have another show.
We do.
So it'll be food, and I'll have to be quiet.
I love it.
So I want to, really quick, what's our time, Jay? What's our time? What? 2:20? Okay, so we have like 5 more minutes or so, maybe 10. But I wanted to ask you, because we always love to give nuggets. You have an amazing life, and I think one of the things you do, 2 things that I wanted to know what you do is, how do you connect consistently with such love and compassion day after day? Like, what are your secrets when you are, I see you as a master social connector. So what are your secrets with that?
So it's funny because it's really simple. I think that people think that in order to connect a network, you have to have this business card, which I have none of. Joe tags, I need business cards, by the way. I think that people think it has to be this, it's back to perfection, right? So if I haven't seen somebody in a while, I'll reach out to them.
Okay.
If I see, like, I'll just do a quick text, how are you? I think we overcomplicate the connection. It can be just something small, and that might be the only person who's checked on them in that day or expressed anything. And so I think it's so important just to do the basics. Do I do it to all 5,000 people I have on Facebook and the 12,000 on LinkedIn? No. But if I see something, I'll comment on it. If I wish people a happy birthday, there's just so much stuff that you can do.
It sounds to me that you've let go of something that I'm working on, which is that guilt and shame. When you haven't, I have wonderful friends and family, and you know, you're busy, you're a professional, you're working, and I tell people, look, even though I'm on HGTV and you think I'm everywhere, you know what, I have to sell houses just like every other realtor to keep my light on. And so you get busy in doing what you do, and then before you know it, it's been a couple months since you reached out to someone that you really care about, and then it starts, a little tape starts playing in my mind that starts obstructing.
I would just encourage you at that moment when you think about it, reach out.
Just
hey, I'm just thinking of you. I think people, they want to make everything so pretty, and life is not pretty. So I just want you to go and say, hey George, how you doing? Hey Jen, hey Patrick, hey Jose. Just a quick little thing. You don't have to make it complicated. Trust me.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple.
Keep it stupid.
And I think that's so important when you're talking about connections. I don't think it has to be this big giant deal of, oh my God, now I have to write a novel because I'm feeling guilty because I haven't talked to you in 3 months.
Yes.
There are many people I don't see. The thing about checking in on a regular basis, I have had friends that have told me come back. They were in a really dark place.
Yes.
And one quick message, was something that impacted them. And so I think you don't underestimate the value of that quick contact, that quick message to somebody.
Yeah, and I think that what you do also is you're letting go of expectations and you're just staying in the love. And if that person feels that they are not okay with the contact or it's been some time, say, you know what? I would like to connect with you a little bit more. Correct. So my next question before we wrap up, because we got this gorgeous house again, guys. We're going to be standing up in a minute here. We're going to be looking at this beautiful home, and if you can guess what part of Orlando that we are, we got a wine basket and some chocolates. I think I need to like bring it to show you. It's a real thing.
I can't wait.
But I wanted to ask you, because you also do events, and again, shout out to Hi Sim!
Hi Sim!
Black and White event.
Tomorrow night, Black and White event, 10th anniversary.
10th anniversary
Base
reunion.
camp.
Base camp. Story. And both Ted and I are going to be at the Black and White event. We'll probably put a link in the comments. There's still tickets available, or you can come at the door. You must.
Don't wear anything, not even in your cufflinks.
Yeah, even the undergarments must be black and white. Exactly.
No, we're going to have like an X-ray. We're all going to wear red.
Oh no!
Kidding, Heisem, don't relax.
He will. Yeah.
Oh my God, he's going to drive down here. He doesn't know where it is.
But in doing events, how do you connect without being overwhelmed? How do you deal with that stress and connect in an environment where there's so many people around you, so much going on?
So I think you have to work toward this. But what I do is I actually go, I'm completely different than a lot of network people. I go and find a place to sit, and I promise you it all comes to you. So I think what happens is a lot of people get caught up in, I've got to get everybody's business card, and I could do a whole show on how not to throw your business card at people. But you I hate that. Pet peeve. But you go to these events, and I think people feel like they have to walk around, I have to meet everybody. I haven't met those people in the corner.
Yes.
Listen. What's supposed to be, you'll attract. I believe this. So I think it's super important.
I need this.
So
I'm starting here in the room, and I gotta go I gotta do a circle.
Like tonight, for example, at Allie McCarroll's event, I will find a place either at the bar, that's where the seats are, guys, don't judge. That's also where the alcohol is, so you can judge. And I will sit. And the reason that I will sit is because it comes to you. You have to find a place. If you go out and search for it too much, if you're too in their face, people don't like that. They don't respect it. They don't want to deal with it. So I feel like I'm going to meet the people I'm supposed to meet, and I set it up so that I'm open. I open myself up. Okay. And then believe me, it comes. And it comes. You know, I'm going to try this next time. You should. Because I'm a mover and a shaker. I might be my mom calls me and she's probably watching the Energizer Bunny. She's like, Jen, you just go, 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 go. And then I see you disappear because your batteries went out. And then for like 24 to 48 hours, I don't hear anything from you. And then you resurrect again and you're back and you're go, 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 go. So I'm going to have to implement. Try that. I'm going to have to implement that. So really quickly, last thing I want to ask, or next to last thing. I'm so afraid because I know Bobby and Gil are all like, I'm so glad there hasn't been any crazy Bobby Gil questions. Oh, Lord have mercy. Well, there was a Jen question, but we'll leave that for post show. Oh my gosh. But if you could go back to that young Ted who was going through such a difficult time, and you could like put your hand on his shoulder and tell him one piece of advice, what would you tell him? That's a great question. So, you see, you ask great questions. To know that this isn't all. That environment, that world that I was in was so painful. And I think that as a child, as you're going through it, and even as a young adult, you don't know how to rationalize out of it. Yeah. And so, thankfully, I had great people around me that helped. But to tell that person, you should all tell your younger person. We all have that younger person we probably need to talk to a lot more than we do. Oh, yeah. And get them out of it. Make them realize that it's not going to always be like this. As you become an adult, you have choices. And I want to stress this. If you want to live in that world, if you continue to the patterns that you grew up with and you just accept it and continue it, then shame on you. I think that if you have suffered through it, you have stuff that you need to change, then you should go out and make the change. Go out and make that change. Yeah, and I think, I've got teenagers and I've been there, done it. Oh, Lord. I will survive. That's why I have a couple. That's why there's martinis and stuff. Oh my gosh, and hair dye for us ladies. And I think what they do is every moment is so incredibly powerful or painful, and they're living in the extreme. And I think what you're saying is something that we can all tell ourselves is this too shall pass. Amen. And God has so much more than you can imagine.
So, Ted, we're going to shift things around here, guys, and we're going to move to our moving part of the show.
So I'm going to say goodbye to my people who are live. We love you guys. Mwah. We'll respond later. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, guys.
Super excited. We love you guys so much. And now we're going to do the tour.
We're going to do the tour.